And this is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio and also my CBSI Talking Business interview series. And today we have a chance to talk to a veteran of the United States Army, graduate of West Point, who is president and CEO of a merchandise apparel company, Authentically American, and that is Dean Wegner. Dean, how are you today?
Ken, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm honored to be a guest. Thank you for the invitation.
Our pleasure. Good to talk with you. And you started 3 years ago a new company, Authentically American, and your premise is to offer apparel merchandise that is made in the United States. Tell us about how you decided to do this and got the company started.
You got it, Ken. So just a high-level overview. We are a veteran-owned, American-made premium apparel brand. Our vision is to build this iconic American brand, the next Nike, Under Armour, Land's End, but have it all made here in the U.S., creating American jobs. And history really ties to the motivation because, Ken, when I graduated from West Point in '93, over 50% of the apparel in the U.S. was made in the U.S. Today, it's less than 3%. I mean, that is all that's made here, and most people are astounded to hear that statistic. And one of the primary motivations to launch Authentically American was ultimately to create American jobs, really to make a difference. And ultimately, Ken, if we're successful, you'll leave an incredible legacy.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Why did you decide to go to West Point, and what was your experience like there?
So the initial motivation, Ken, came from a call from the hockey coach. I was in high school and had 2 goals. One, I wanted to get the best possible education I could. And the second one was to play Division I hockey. And when the hockey coach called and did a little bit of more research, I'm like, does it get any better than the education you get from West Point? And having an opportunity to play Division I hockey just seemed like a perfect match made for me.
That had to be a Riley. I mean, it's been 2 generations of Rileys coaching the Army hockey team. We work with Coach Brian Riley. Of course, his father
yes.
Was a longtime ice hockey coach at West Point, and that must have been terrific. Tell us a little bit about you. You mentioned to me that you had a very interesting career in the Army, in both flying and then going back to infantry, the very core of the Army. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been called crazy before, Ken, and reason being is I selected aviation as the branch, and that was an amazing choice. I absolutely loved it. Went to flight school in Fort Rucker, Alabama. But part of me was torn, Ken, because the heart and soul of the Army is the infantry. And I was thinking, should I go in the infantry? And at flight school, they made a very unusual announcement. They gathered everyone together and said, guys, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to hold a competition and send one of you to Ranger School. And I thought, Ken, here's my chance. And I was very fortunate, won that competition, had a chance to go to Ranger School, and it was miserable. I mean,
that's what we've heard.
Absolutely awful. And it is by the sheer grace of God that I made it straight through because, on day 1, there were 340 of us, Ken. 68 days later, there were only 72 of us left.
Wow.
And me coming from aviation, there was no Ranger orientation program. There was nothing that got me ready. I showed up there at Fort Benning with 2 brand new pairs of boots under my arm saying, well, where do I go? Here I am.
Wow. How many days is Ranger training? I know it's, a period where you're in a desert environment, you're in a swamp environment for part of that, different terrains, cold weather. How many days of training is that?
So it's changed a little bit from the days I went, Ken. I think there's only 3 phases now, but when I went, there was the basic orientation phase at Fort Benning. Then you transition to the desert phase in El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss. Each phase is 16 days. Then you go to Dahlonega, Georgia for the mountain phase. And then the final phase is in the panhandle of Florida, the jungle swamp phase. So 16 days each phase with a day of travel between each. So a total of 72 days.
Wow, that is extraordinary. And you can tell someone who's completed the Ranger course, they have a tab on their shoulder, which is a very high mark of distinction in the U.S. Army and military. Well, tell us a little bit. One of the things. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you should have seen the looks that I walked into my first unit wearing a flight suit with a Ranger tab on the shoulder. The first
Sure.
question was, are you prior service? And then when they found out it was not, they're like, what's wrong with this guy? He must be crazy. But I will
Well,
tell you, Ranger School was all about incredible stress and no sleep. It was 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. And I tell everybody, I didn't know it back then, but Ranger School was such great training for leading a startup because that's the life I'm living now. No sleep and incredible stress.
well, it's extraordinary, and that was quite an accomplishment that you had in the military. Now, tell us a little bit about. We always like to talk to veterans about transition, and you've been very successful in being able to move into the corporate world, into consulting with KPMG, and then eventually starting your own company. Tell us a little bit about the path of your transition after the military.
Absolutely, Ken. And flat out, I needed help because I had no idea what I was doing. I was focused on, being the best Army officer I could be. And I went to school at night to get my MBA, and that, whet my interest and said I really loved the business side, but I wasn't sure what was out there. So I went with a JMO, a junior military officer recruiting firm, went with Cameron Brooks. And over 2 days, had 15 interviews. And the opportunity that I liked best was with KPMG, a big 5 consulting firm. And that was my first business exposure. And loved the clients I worked with, Ken, loved the work I did, but loved my family more. And I never saw them. I mean, it was Monday through Friday every week. And, that led to a transition to Procter and Gamble. Worked on iconic brands like Crest and Tide. And then also spent time at Mars working on brands like M&Ms and Snickers. And at our core, Authentically American, we're a brand, we're a marketing company. And that's where being part of those world-class marketing and branding companies like Procter and Gamble and Mars was so, incredibly helpful for what we're doing right now.
Well, that's great. I mean, you've done a lot in your career, and then decided to go do a startup. What have been the keys for putting the company together?
So I think number one, this goes back to Ranger School. People that would tell you that, starting a business from scratch, which I always like to show this visual, Ken, this, 4 years ago was my business plan. I mean, it was a blank sheet of paper, and, 3 years later, I'm exhausted. I mean, it's literally been brick by brick building the foundation, but when you are pursuing what you love, when you're pursuing what you're passionate, it doesn't feel like work. So I think one is be willing to work, but I think the other part is find what you love. I mean, find what you're passionate about. And we could literally sit here for hours, Ken, just talking because I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. Oftentimes the alarm doesn't go off. I'm up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and not because I set the alarm. It's just I'm fired up. I'm excited. I want to get to work. So I think those are really 2 big keys. If you're going to go down the entrepreneurial path, be prepared for a ton of work. But if you're going to do that, find a field, find something that you truly love and are passionate about.
Absolutely. Now, Authentically American, you've got different lines of clothing and merchandise. Tell us a little bit about some of the types of merchandise that you're offering.
Yeah. So probably the way to start, Ken, there's really 2 sides of our business. Where we started was on the client side. So think of every business out there, whether it's a Fortune 500, middle market, small business, they all buy branded apparel with their company logo. So you can buy Nike, you can buy Land's End, have your company logo there, but everything there is made in China, made overseas. And my initial premise was, why not go ahead and give you as a business owner, Ken, a choice, a high quality American-made choice that is competitively priced that aligns more with your values. So that's where we started, and that business is really doing quite well, especially in the middle of a global pandemic. But we also launched our own consumer brand. So anyone who's listening can go to authenticallyamerican.us and purchase their new favorite pair of socks, their new favorite T-shirt or polo or a quarter zip like I'm wearing. And if we've got time, Ken, would love to do a quick kindergarten style show and tell of our new hero product.
Okay. Well, you got to show us that. I heard a little bit about it. It's getting a lot of attention.
Well, Ken, I love that we're here via Zoom, so you can see me, we can see each other, but the one part we missed out not being in person was you being able to see and feel and touch this, because you would be like, Dean, that is incredibly soft. And if you feel the print, we don't use a heavy plastisol ink. This is a water-based ink, so it's incredibly soft on a hot summer's day. It doesn't stick to your chest. It doesn't crack after a few washes. I mean, it's just an amazing t-shirt. And this is one that's partial to me because at West Point, it's all about go Army, beat Navy. And Ken, here is where the wow comes in because this is our new sweat activated print innovation. So I don't have time to get in a good workout right now, but I do have this spray bottle. So I'll spray it to simulate working out. And what do you see just appear there?
Beat Navy.
Beat Navy. And
Coach Munkin's favorite words.
Yep, there's our vintage U.S. flag. So it was small on the front. And in the back, you can see that Beat Navy appear. And Ken, here's what's happened. People say, Dean, forget where it's made. That is just an amazing shirt. I love it. I love the products that you make. And Ken, what they do then is they look at the tag and see that it's an American-made shirt. They go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us, and they find about the story, the ethos behind our brand. That's when we fast become, somebody's new favorite brand.
Can see why. That's very innovative what you've got, and a great premise. Now, how is it on finding manufacturing capability and capacity?
It is incredibly difficult, Ken. Back to 50% being produced in the U.S. in '93. Now it's only 3. I mean, it is incredibly difficult, and that was something. I bought a business in 2012 that produced dress uniforms for the military, and I was so thankful for those 5 years because that gave me a general baseline understanding of the industry and the apparel market in the U.S. And as you heard, my background is predominantly in marketing and branding and sales and business development. And ultimately, the strategy I decided on is I need to focus on what I do reasonably well. And then what I need to do is find the best darn t-shirt maker in the country, provide them our specs, and have them produce for us. And I'll show you one other example. Last time I was on Fox and Friends, Ken, these fun patriotic socks that are Carolina cotton, knit in Carolina, just an amazing product. We found the best darned sock maker in the country in North Carolina. So those are Carolina cotton, knit in Carolina. So we produce now in 12 different states.
Oh, that's neat. Great to see. And you're creating jobs and in the United States and producing a terrific product. That's neat to see. And it's really good to talk with you. Dean Wegner, class of '93 out of the U.S. Military Academy, veteran of the U.S. Army, of both the aviation and the infantry branches of the Army. We were just following the branch night at West Point, where the Army seniors class of 2021 open their envelopes to see what branches they will be going to in the U.S. Army. A big day for them. It was fun to see them have that moment.
Well, Ken, I was not there, but I've loved to see so many posts on social media about the 50-year reunion class, providing them their gift of their new branch. It's an exciting night. I still remember my night being awarded aviation. Absolutely,
and of course a big couple of Saturdays coming up at West Point. The historic Army-Navy game will be at West Point on the 12th of December. First time it's been played at West Point since World War II. And then the following week, the visit by the United States Air Force Academy for the second Commander-in-Chief Trophy game, and that being at stake in both of those games. So it's going to be quite a couple of weeks for West Point. What's your thought about the Army-Navy game this year?
It is a year, Ken, like no other. 2020 just across the board, and we're talking sports like right now. And you think of all those years that I've been to games. When I was a cadet and as a vendor, being a licensee for Authentically American and West Point, always in Philadelphia. I wish I had an opportunity to go to West Point because it would be such a neat experience to have such an incredible game, such an incredible rivalry played right there in Michie Stadium.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be doing some coverage at West Point next Saturday. And so, Dean, why don't we just have you offer a final thought about where your merchandise is available, how people would like to check it for holiday gifts can make purchases.
Well, Ken, I appreciate that opportunity. I would encourage everyone to visit, our website, authenticallyamerican.us, authenticallyamerican.us, and that .us was an intentional choice. It just makes sense to have that website address. And the thing I would highlight is now, until December 14th, we are offering 25% off everything on our website. So now is a great time to go pick up your favorite Go Army Beat Navy sweat tee, your favorite pair of fun patriotic socks, or we have a whole new fun, holiday collection as well, Ken. So authenticallyamerican.us for 25% off.
Well, we'll check that out and offer that website address on the caption to this. And so good to talk with you. You have quite a story. Dean Wegner, class of '93 from the United States Military Academy, veteran of the United States Army, and now the founder and CEO of a company, Authentically American, that is offering clothing, apparel made in the United States. Really great to talk with you today, Dean, and hear your story.
My pleasure, Ken. It was an honor to be a guest. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Hey, this is Ken Kraetzer for both our CBSI Services Talking Business interview series and our series of interviews with veteran-owned companies, and also for our Sons of the American Legion radio interview series. So thank you to Dean Wegner, and this is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio and CBSI Services from my home office in White Plains, New York. Have a great day, everybody.